much? What's up, much? What's up, much?
All right, we're back again with another episode of the Blitzkrieg Pop. I'm Adam, my brother sitting to my left.
Am I to your left? Yeah, right.
No, you were to the left. This is my left hand.
You butthole.
This is my
I
left.
fucked that all up. Sleepy. I'm Alex.
All right.
Brag about it.
Then can I be dopey and be Munch?
Yeah.
You could be Dopey Munch.
I'm AJ, and I'm a huge piece of shit.
We know that.
And I am Zach.
Oh,
ZDH.
ZDH in the motherfucking hay.
Well, guys, tonight we are coming at you with a discussion of Image Comics. It's probably the only actual rival to either Marvel or DC as far as market share is concerned.
As far as creative works, I think probably Image is way better than Marvel or DC.
I'm going to tell you right now. Yeah, I mean, if you look at my pull list, you're going to see about 2 Marvel, 2 DC, and about 20 Image.
Yeah.
I'd like to say that's true. I just don't feel like, and we'll get into the Image problem to me about it's their company and they can do whatever they want to and shit don't come out on time.
Right.
But that's the
Accurate.
biggest issue that I have with my issues in the pull box.
Oh, I like your issues with your issues.
All 20 of those books might not have an ending.
Yeah, whenever I say that's on my pull list, I didn't say that's what's in my box.
Yes.
Or they're going to get released.
But we'll get to that
We'll
later
get there.
on.
But
All
seriously, Spawn 300's coming out soon.
Yes,
It's
it
a
is.
fucking major milestone for Todd McFarlane, for Image Comics, and anyone that was around in the 90s like we were. It's
Oh.
a major deal.
The rise and fall.
The rise and fall of Image, and the rise again. You know, the rise
Yeah.
and fall and rise of Image.
Absolutely.
That's what we're going
Rise,
to call
fall,
this
rise.
episode. I just named
Rise
the
and fall
episode.
and rise again.
You know, not a lot of things get a chance to rise again. I mean, Image is one of the few things
Except for Batman, The
And
Dark Knight.
zombies.
in my penis, but most things
He has had 2 boners, is what we're hearing here.
only
At the very-
twice. And I have 2 children, so
Yeah,
They
he's-
have rotten flesh.
Adam has fucked twice.
that's it.
That's important to me.
I'm glad we got that out there.
Using it correctly.
That's the end of the episode, guys. We'll see you later.
All right, so Image, though, they formed in 1992. They were 7 guys that left Marvel Publishing. They were tired of not having a piece of the pie. I mean, basically, is what it boiled down to.
Yeah, because these guys were making... I mean, Todd McFarlane's on Amazing Spider-Man at that point. It was the biggest book coming out. No, Uncanny X-Men.
Actually, yeah, Jim.
Not Uncanny X-Men.
Just X-Men.
X-Men.
8 million copies sold.
Of number
I
one.
wanna
Jim
say.
Lee.
And that's Jim Lee and Chris
Yeah.
Claremont.
Spider-Man, just Todd McFarlane, was 2 million, and it was major at the time.
Yeah, that's Spider-Man 1. Not to be confused with Amazing Spider-Man.
Yes,
Yeah.
for 1 out of every 3,000 customers who says you have Spider-Man 1, you do not.
Yeah.
Do not.
And if it says True Believers on the top, please do not bring it to us.
It says Golden Record reprint.
No,
Go
still
ahead
bring
and-
that. That's
go
so
ahead and still
expensive,
bring that one
dude.
to us, though.
Those are
That's like a
great.
$500 comic still.
But seriously, it was all over the place in the 90s. We were buying those
man.
books. We were buying those books. You had Rob Liefeld. He created Deadpool.
Cable.
McFarlane did the cover with him on
Yeah,
New
I mean,
Mutants 87.
fuck, you know,
Cable.
I'm going to throw in Fabian Nikiza here because he always gets left out when people talk about Deadpool.
This is
He
very
does.
true. He does.
You're right. You're right.
Well, you know, stories at that time were becoming, and to their dismay, were becoming more art-driven than story-driven. And that's part of what we'll get into.
That
in a little
led to the
bit.
rise of the art and the dark ages.
It
of
led to
comics.
Rob Liefeld doing a Levi's jean commercial.
Yeah.
and owning multiple Lamborghinis. Which
Multiple.
is crazy.
If I could own multiple Lamborghinis, I probably wouldn't.
Yeah, Munch
definitely-
owns 3 Lamborghinis, and no one's bragging about that.
There's multiple.
It's just bad cars that I writ Lamborghini on the front of.
Just scratching in there with his keys.
So it was Jim Lee, Todd McFarlane, the Rob, as we all lovingly call him, Eric Larson, Will Spertatio, Mark Silvestri, and Jim Valentino. Those
all
guys
badasses.
met with Marvel.
They
and-
all worked at Marvel.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Representing their top
And I don't
books.
think it was just 5 of them when they went into the meeting. They were representing the other 2. The other 2 2 of them joined the night before or something like
Jim
that.
Lee.
Yeah. Anyway, they basically told him, "Hey, this is what we're doing. We're leaving. We're not going to work for you." They met with DC the next day and said, "We're definitely not working with you either.
We just want to let you
Just
know.
want to let you guys know
Just a dick move.
that you're fucked."
That's cool,
Swinging
man.
dicks at him.
Yeah, because they
Man,
weren't even.
yeah.
there's no DC people that are founders of Image, which is kind of crazy.
That always gets left out too. It's weird because people.
DC sucks.
I mean, DC was not the big dog at that point. It was
Not at
all
all.
Marvel. It was all X-Men and Spider-Man.
Still that way.
Well,
The animated series was hot, Batman the animated series, but DC Comics blew fucking
Marvel's the swinging dick of the comic industry, bro.
at
in
that-
the 90s.
especially in the 90s.
Still today, since the 60s.
So they
AJ doesn't like that. It's my opinion.
I don't really have an
I'm
opinion
just
of
playing.
Marvel
I'm
versus
just-
DC.
I'm just
I
playing.
stay out of the line. I'm an Image guy nowadays.
I know.
We know this.
Yep.
Well,
and those books will never come
That's why
out.
I'm excited about this episode.
I'm kidding around.
so
Butthole.
so basically they had a credo. No, they were like, we are never going to own any creator's work. That was their deal. They didn't want anyone owning anything of another person's. So
Which is awesome.
which is
Because
really
Todd
cool.
McFarlane
Because-
created Venom, and he has no ownership over
Well,
it.
yeah, and
That's
you can
crazy.
go bigger than that. Stan Lee doesn't own Spider-Man.
That's true, but we're not talking
Well, he's
about Stan
dead,
Lee.
so.
well, I'm
Stan
just
Lee had already that
just
was
saying.
set in stone, but,
Right, but
Todd
they were-
McFarlane wanted to change
sure, and then did
it. Did absolutely accomplish it
change
on a
it.
lesser scale.
Well, he owns Spawn.
I mean,
Yeah,
when you
sells
look at
700 copies a month. You know what I'm saying? But I'm not down in that. I'd love to have something like that.
Right, sure.
I mean, I imagine his action figure stuff at this point
Damn
gets him
right.
his
Plus, he does the baseball
dollars.
stuff.
I just think that you can respect anyone that says, this is the way I'm doing business. Fuck the way it's been done. This is how it's going from now. And then not only do they just say it, it actually happened.
I would never have the balls to
Have
do
you-
that. I respect the
That's
hell
the
out
other
of it.
thing. Todd McFarlane's balls. None of those guys would
All-
have done it without him.
Right. And
Yeah.
it's I mean, Image is punk as fuck the way it
They
starts
are.
out.
And you know what's badass?
I mean, without
It was
a doubt.
all inspired by Jack Kirby.
Well,
He said if they'll fuck Jack Kirby, they'll fuck me.
which
And that's the truth. And hey, we love Marvel, but as a company, they're bullshit.
Oh, they've always been run by rich assholes.
Yeah.
Well, it's-
That's
I
the
think a
thing,
lipstick company owned them in
So,
the 90s.
it's a corporation.
Lipstick company?
I'm not kidding.
And then-
I think it was like L'Oreal owned them. I could be wrong, but
So they get their balls out, basically. They get their dicks out and go, this is what's fucking happening.
just throw them on the table.
Swing them.
In 1992, they obviously Spawn, right? Spawn happens. All of them basically created their own publishing branch under the
and
Image
studio.
banner.
Yeah.
Went on to create their shit, which it's kind of funny in a way. I laugh a little. I mean, Spawn, is kind of his own thing, but you had like Jim Lee, who had just left the X-Men and created the WildC.A.T.s,
WildC.A.T.s,
which
good
is
lord.
the fucking X-Men.
Yeah.
Well, hold on. Can we pause? Can you name the WildC.A.T.s?
I know
Fuck,
one
I
of them's
can't.
Troll,
Grifter.
Zealot.
Bad Rock?
No, that's
That's
what
what
Jim Lee
Youngblood.
shit.
I know
shit.
Troll and Zealot.
What about
Grifter?
Yeah,
Grifter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Grifter.
They had a fucking cartoon.
I know I've seen Grifter in some DC shit. I thought.
No, well,
They brought them through.
nowadays, well, originally they were Image, then they went to Wildstorm, and then Wildstorm was bought by DC.
Okay.
Which we'll get to at the end of
Yeah.
this.
I think Wildstorm was Jim Lee's imprint.
Yeah. And he,
That's
whenever
one of
he
the-
joined up with DC, that's how they got him. They bought Wildstorm, and I don't want to say they bought Jim Lee, but they bought his contract.
They bought Jim Lee.
They
They bought
gave him
Jim
a
Lee.
shit ton of money, and now he's their boss.
Hey, spoiler
So I
alert.
respect that.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler
Like,
alert,
we're
y'all.
not at the end of the episode yet.
It is 2019.
Where we say where Jim Lee ended up.
In the year of our Lord 2019.
How about a few of the issues that put Jim Lee on the map?
What, X-Men 282? Is that his first work at Marvel?
I believe so.
No. That's the first Bishop.
It's around that time. It's got
270
Colossus on the cover.
something?
Zach, didn't he do a run on Punisher?
Yeah, War Journal.
War
Yep.
Journal?
I want to say he did the issue that Micro lost his son. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, and I mean,
Powerful stuff.
Jim Lee got around and honestly did amazing things.
He's great.
I've really loved his work. I mean,
When I think of Wolverine, it is Jim Lee's Wolverine.
sure,
And
absolutely.
honestly, nothing compares to it to me.
I would say that's probably more than likely because of the success of X-Men 1.
I
Absolutely.
mean, that pretty much infected everything around that time. Like, I would say that people our age really have a huge,
Jim Lee boner.
tie into the animated series, which was clearly
The team.
clearly put together after Jim Lee's stuff.
Sure, yeah.
Jim Lee and Chris
I
Claremont.
was just going to say
but if you're going
Claremont.
to talk about the founders of Image and what they did, and like even Marvel's world, Silvestri had a great run with X-Men.
Yeah.
That's true.
Absolutely.
Silvestri gets shit on for some reason.
But he had
Silvestri,
great
Valentino,
art.
and Portacio get left behind. And yeah, I'm
Portacio.
I know,
Portacio.
right?
Is that how it's pronounced?
Portacio, yeah.
Yeah.
I honestly have no
It's
idea.
okay.
Y'all
Never heard
Port-
it out loud, right?
Mr. Port.
There you go.
Port boy.
Sorry, Wills.
Pork chop.
You know what? It's not my fault. The man's name's Wills. Okay.
It's no one's fault but his parents.
Someone named you Alan.
Did every
That's
one of these
true.
guys? I'm sitting here looking at this list.
Most of them did X-Men.
They all
I was
did
about to say,
X-Men.
did all of them?
Except Todd.
Except for Todd McFarlane.
I don't
And
think
even
Todd
Spider-Man.
did.
Who covered Hulk and
Wait.
Spider-Man.
Well, now
Todd did work at DC, though. You guys...
Did he?
Oh, yeah. He did Batman.
He did Batman
He
stuff.
did Dr. Fate.
I forgot.
He did, yeah.
He did the fucking Outsiders or some bullshit team.
Yeah,
But
Todd-
here's the thing.
Todd did
Rob
work
Liefeld didn't technically do X-Men. He did He did
Force.
X-Force.
and X-Force. But did you know that Todd inked the first appearance of Cable?
I said it.
Absolutely
I said
didn't
it
know
at
that.
the beginning of this episode.
I don't remember
Oh,
you
did you?
saying
I don't
that.
remember you saying that.
You said it, yeah, just for
I
a second.
totally
Yeah.
said it. Yeah.
Whose side are you on, Zach?
My
This is
side.
a war.
We're taking Zach
Wait,
out
you
of
said
the,
it while
the
we were
hot seat.
recording?
Zach is no longer on here.
Since we've been on air, I said
I'm
that.
unplugging Zach's mic.
But that's okay. Yeah,
Fine.
Rob Liefeld and McFarlane's signature is on that awful cover.
Wow.
Yeah.
That doesn't have a hand on it.
The Todd. You know what the weirdest thing though is I respect Rob Liefeld because he admits his faults and rolls with them.
Yeah, I love Rob Liefeld's attitude.
As a person, because we've met him in person at Comic Cons, nicest motherfucker I've ever met. Next to like,
Kind of douched out here recently.
well, maybe, but in person, like him and Kyle Starks are two of the nicest people I've ever met in comics. That's
cool.
And he's the only person I've met that has some bad dumb habits that he's just like, yep, those are my bad dumb habits. Also, I'm rich.
So those guys, they formed Image. They left Marvel, and that's leaving big money. So then they jump out on their
Yeah,
own.
and you see this huge spike as soon as Spawn comes out.
Yeah.
Everybody wants a piece of Spawn. Everybody thinks it's the greatest thing in the world.
Spawn, you had Savage Dragon.
Yeah.
Witchblade.
Yeah, oh,
Witchblade.
damn right.
Yeah, Top Cow.
Hey,
'cause that was-
Witchblade had a TV show.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of
Remember
these had really short-lived TV shows.
Spawn had a TV show on HBO.
I love
you-
that
oh my
cartoon.
God, that was
Oh,
great.
Man, that was a
fucking-
game changer
I
right
fucking
there.
loved that
Todd
cartoon.
motherfucking McFarlane,
You know,
dude.
it's a weird one. Don't go back and watch it because it does not hold up. But I remember as a kid watching it and being like, there's a cartoon and it says the ass word. It ain't The Simpsons.
You talking about the Max?
No, the
okay.
Spawn
The
one on
Spawn.
HBO.
Oh, yeah.
But,
Okay.
But the
well, I'll
Max,
get into the
though.
Max. Don't worry about that.
Well, here
because-
we are at the founding.
Oh,
so-
we're at the founding. Yeah.
We're out of the
Like,
founding.
we're
when
at the
it
first-
sucked.
Oh, so this is time for me to jerk off about the fact that as many bad comics were coming out. Sam Keith and Walter, what's his name? Adam, help me here.
Oh, don't
drag me
Fuck
into this
me.
bullshit.
don't put that on me, Ricky Bobby.
Sam Keith and the other gentleman that wrote that with him, who, if I think he's never gonna meet me, so who cares if I forgot his name? But
Damn,
you had
actually.
all these like angsty, very angry, very 90s comics, and then you had the Max, which was a real like ahead of its time, deep like mental illness focused book that looked on its cover like a generic fantasy horse shit. We're
Hero
gonna swing our
book.
dicks at things, but like it dealt with a homeless guy with mental illness that had to retreat into his own mind to deal with his problems, and had a social worker helping him.
It's
like,
it's pretty good stuff. I love the MTV cartoon.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
and it followed it
loved it.
panel
so
to panel.
good.
Yeah.
Aeon Flux.
No,
Aeon Flux was
Flux.
awesome, and I'll stand by it. I don't care if it had a weird art style.
Don't rewatch Max now. It's
not good.
doesn't hold up.
Eric's wrong.
What about
I would
the-
actually say he's wrong.
There was
yeah.
another cartoon around that time where a guy had a real tall head.
The head.
The head. Yeah.
The head was also awesome. You know what? All that liquid
oddities.
Yes.
it was oddities and liquid television.
Yep.
Television was
And-
wild as fuck too.
It's kind of shitty that like it's one of the things because I don't try to do the whole nostalgia thing, but it's kind of bullshit that this generation doesn't get like that weird horseshit animation thing that we got.
Because all they've got is
We
YouTube.
do. It's on. It's called Adult Swim. It's a bunch of shitty cartoons that people.
Not
know are
everything on
artistic.
Adult Swim
Well,
is a
you know,
bunch
that's,
of shitty.
that's actually a good point because it is. Some of it's weird.
They're
Some
like,
it's weird
this
as
is
fuck.
artistic. We like coffee.
No, the
You mean
fl-
like Adventure Time or something?
now that's I mean, like I'll stand by Adventure Time. I love that show,
Sure,
but
it's good,
but most of Adult Swim is just like, how about we make a badly drawn thing about a mouse and he says stuff about his penis.
Something like that.
And it's not but
Beavis and Butthead came from Liquid TV, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. They're frog baseball.
All
was their
this
big-
kind of ties into that 90s
That era.
boom.
It's
Yeah.
definitely in the 90s.
Yeah, well, when kind of, I want to say, for lack of a better word, you had the Jerry Springer era. Like, you had Monday Night Raw with
Matt
Steve
Pinfield.
Austin. You had Matt Pinfield. You had
120
fucking-
minutes.
Dude,
Yeah.
Hey, I'm Matt Pinfield.
Remember Kennedy?
Oh, yes, Kennedy. She had
Yeah.
that bushy hair. I
Oh,
hated that.
the redhead with the thick black glasses.
I'm just
she was
shitting
an
my pants
MTV
over
VJ, and she was super hot.
Yes,
well,
she
it,
was.
it was like two sides of the same coin because the 90s had this grim, dark, gotta be tough thing. And then from the same thing, I'd say they had this very like, it was almost a proto, because everyone now is very more like open to talking about the weird shit in life. 'Cause that's where you got like the head, like Alex brought up, was very much about dealing with depression.
Yeah.
And the Max was very much about dealing with like bipolar disorder and shit.
I remember being a kid watching those, and they made me uncomfortable.
Yeah, and it's
You know,
one of-
like as a kid.
yeah, and it's one of because we didn't understand those as a kid.
But that's a good point, though, that all that stuff kind of ties into that, the way the 90s were presented.
So what's interesting about Image, though, is that they went ahead with their launch, and they went ahead and just broke comic books.
yeah.
That they were like, we're going to do 46,000 variant covers per issue.
Yeah, they expanded massively.
And Marvel and DC, in an attempt to keep up, they just followed suit. They were like, oh, we're doing chromium fucking asshole dipped variant covers of everything. You know,
The
Oh my
Spider-Man
God.
asshole variant.
yeah, I mean,
I'd buy that.
it got fucking stupid.
Well, what happened there is you had these like
Because everything
80-year-old.
was based on art and not on
That's the reason I
substance.
started buying it.
No substance. That's
Right,
right.
yeah, when
Zach.
you're 13, 14 years old,
You
that
want an
art's-
asshole
that
dipped
art's-
variant.
Yeah, it's popping.
Yeah, right. I mean that was the allure for
Yeah.
Image, because it was run by artists who, and I'm not saying they're not good storytellers, or I'm not taking anything away from them, but they didn't focus on the story.
They
side.
weren't Roy Thomases and
No.
and fucking Marv
They
Wolfmans.
no,
and stuff.
yeah,
They-
definitely not.
They were young people who paid attention, is what they were.
Absolutely.
Like Marvel and DC at that point had 80-year-old CEOs, like literally
Sure.
in their 80s.
Sure.
Didn't know what the fuck was going on. Same problem, and I'll bring up WWE now. They got a 70-year-old CEO who doesn't know what the fuck he's doing.
True.
It's the
And-
same thing.
Yeah. Then all of a sudden you have Image coming out here with these guys in their 20s and 30s going, well, this is what people want. We'll give it to them. And by God, they did.
And by God, they did. And they did it so hard.
You know, I read a thing with Todd McFarlane. We're in the middle on the Image thing. He said he got famous doing Spider-Man, and he didn't even create anything.
Right.
Because all I did was tweak it. All I did was tweak it, and they made me a star. You know what
His
I'm saying?
art style.
Yeah, with his art style. And Marvel editorial fought it every step of the way. They hated spaghetti webbing. They hated the eyes. And that stuff made him a star.
Spaghetti webbing's one of the coolest things he did, too.
Absolutely.
But I think that's part of what really fucked Image over was that they had such a meteoric rise
Damn right.
that they had that much worse of a come down whenever none of their
Because
books
everyone realized-
were any good.
Profit's not good until later on.
And I would say that what
Brigade's not good.
the beginning of the end was when Marvel hit bankruptcy in '96.
Yeah.
And they were like,
They
we don't
called
know
him back.
what the fuck to do. So they called those guys and they let them, the Image guys, redesign their entire line.
Well, half of them.
Yeah. Well, it was the event.
Yeah.
I mean, Iron Man and
Yeah.
Captain America.
Well, the Image guys.
Yeah,
big
it
ones.
wasn't.
Oh, yeah.
Because
'Cause some
Todd
of
swore
them-
he would
It
never
wasn't
do
everyone.
it. And he
Yeah, it
didn't.
was because it was Rob Liefeld.
Yeah.
Liefeld, Jim Lee, and Larson did it.
Yeah.
I believe.
Yeah.
I could be wrong.
Yeah,
but
well,
I
I'm just saying.
know. I know Lee did it. He was on
Mhm.
Fantastic Four.
Yeah, and Liefeld did, no question, because he was on Captain America.
And it's the worst
Yeah.
shit ever.
It's awful.
At some point, Eric
Cap
Larson
Tits.
came back around and did.
No, this is before Captain Tits.
Captain Tits was in that era.
Yes, he was.
Yeah. So is he? The first comic I ever bought, Zach. We were friends. Captain America. He loved it. Rob Liefeld. Captain America #0.
Uh-huh.
He has like. Looks like his neck is spaghetti. He
Oh my
has so
gosh.
many veins in his neck.
Yeah, I never understood their obsession with neck veins.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
couldn't draw feet, so you had to
Or
distract
cat
you.
butthole, cat butthole crotches. That's what
black
they
hole.
call it.
The black hole crotch.
Black hole
Yeah.
crotch and black hole face, because like Deadpool looks like his nose has collapsed and it's always sucking his whole person.
And this is kind of a, like you're saying, the fall of Image was there's no
substance to the book.
substance to it. It just looks cool.
Yeah.
So meanwhile, Marvel and DC catch on and they go,
follow
well, we've
suit.
got some great artists and we'll put a decent writer on something.
Well, this is where you start getting Vertigo, though.
Yep.
Because at this point, it's where
Which
Vertigo,
is inspired by Image, no
Yeah,
doubt.
But this is where they went, okay, well, we've got all this bullshit here. We have all these. They looked at 2000 AD, which is where you get like Judge Dredd and a bunch of heavy metal shit like that. And they go, well, we've got this Alan Moore, we've got Grant Morrison, we've got Neil Gaiman. And that's where you start getting Animal Man, you get Sandman, you get Shade the Changing Man, Hellblazer, and you go for Swamp Thing.
Really getting some substance.
Yeah,
right
you
there.
go from this like garbage joke books to this really weird psychedelic shit to my opinion, like when you look at Alan Moore, Swamp Thing, and Neil Gaiman's Sandman, it's still books that I'll swear right now are some of the greatest things ever written in comics.
Oh, you guys were telling me, if I'm not mistaken, that Why the Last Man was Vertigo, wasn't it?
Yeah, that
It
came.
was.
I
Yeah.
mean, that's fucking beautiful.
Yeah, from the late '80s to the early 2000s, Vertigo was the place to be.
What,
That's where you went for quality.
Transmetropolitan? Is that?
Oh, man.
Yeah, that was
That's-
originally actually a DC sci-fi offshoot called Helix, but that didn't last long. Helix only lasted for about the first 5-6 issues of Transmetropolitan. Then it went over to Vertigo, and that's where it really started to thrive,
But they
which
start-
was Warren Ellis.
They start figuring out that you've got to actually have some fucking substance to your books. You can't just have flashy art and something that looks cool and it's fight scenes. You got to have some dialogue, some shit that's actually going to make people think.
Damn,
and
my
make
gangsters
people
out there.
make people want to read this shit.
And they still quote Swamp Thing and Sandman as being the biggest like starters of that. And it's kind of funny because Sandman was also Sam Keith, who was the Max over at Image.
And I hate his fucking artwork.
Well, you're wrong. That's okay.
I'm with Eric, man. I don't like that shit. Batman, when he does Batman, I puke in my
I
mouth.
love his Batman so much.
Why are the little points on his hat like 18 feet tall?
For
I like
one,
that
he's
wearing a
hardly-
hat.
Batman's hat.
That's like Thanos' little hat. Thanos' little hat.
Batman's hat.
Thanos' little hat.
Batman's hat has ears on it.
Batman's hat has a face mask on it.
fucking
That's
cow. Is that better?
That makes me think of like a little kid with a hat with a blanket on as a
Got a
cat.
little beanie hat.
Batman's hat. That made my fucking day. So
That's the greatest
I
thing
do
ever.
want to ask, because Eric makes a great point, and I've always thought it and tried to not have an aneurysm or puke while I'm looking at his artwork. How the fuck does he get in the Batmobile with those things? Does it just smash down?
He
like,
uses gel and he just pushes
yeah.
him back.
Is it like when my dog's in trouble and his ears fucking slide back?
The problem here.
It's not like there's
It's
anything
not
in
a problem.
them.
The
know.
difference here is y'all just don't like weirdly stylized things like I do.
Well, I don't know if that's true.
Comic art doesn't always have to be realistic.
That's what's even worse, though. I liked the Max. I didn't like anybody else that was in the book, but the Max looked great because he just can't do people.
You're talking to three guys, not me, but these other guys who like that horseshit Dragon Ball Z look, and that's terrible. So it's
Who
almost
likes Dragon Ball Z look?
the big spiky hair thing, the anime look, the Chrono Trigger look.
That's just
It's the same artist.
Same artist, Akira
That's what I'm
Toriyama.
saying. It's as bonkers as the big Batman hat ears.
It's like
Love
it's not supposed to be realistic. Like you're not supposed to look at it and go.
and they still like that.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. So
Yeah.
I think you're painting with a broad brush there.
I am painting
Where I
with a
just
broad
hate
brush.
both of them.
Alex likes two artists.
I like Jack Kirby and I
If you
like a
like-
lot of art.
Kirby
man.
sucks too.
Yeah.
What the
yeah,
fuck
you're
is wrong
stupid.
with you?
Wow. Did you listen to the other episode? No.
Yeah.
Eric-
And you know
Eric
what I
sucks.
said when you said you hated Kirby last time? What the fuck is wrong with you?
Yeah.
I just don't like Sam Keith's design.
I
so,
agree.
Yeah.
But the point is that these guys start to figure out that if we can pair somebody that can write a book with somebody that can draw a book,
Here's the thing: Image doesn't set up pairings.
that's artist and writer coming together and going, I think we'll be good at this.
What
Yeah,
what
I
I,
mean, that-
love about Image
Now
is
that's something
And that's beautiful.
awesome about Image. They don't create pairings
Because the artist can come to a writer and go, I love that story. I want to draw it.
Yeah, I mean, however
well, Image doesn't sit around like Spawn
Yeah,
and
they don't
Savage
actually-
Dragon don't connect.
I mean, they're not. Well, they have attempted
They
to share
have,
universe
but,
before, but
they don't base their publishing schedule obviously off of what's going to tie in together.
Yeah.
exactly no.
What was that book that tried to get like 10 image artists together.
Zach, what was
where
it?
it shit the bed immediately.
It tried to have
Image United.
Image
Yeah,
United.
that's
It
it.
didn't make
Oh
it to
my-
issue 4, and Kirkman says it's because Todd held it up.
You know what? I've heard like 10 different people blame it on different
But
things.
it doesn't matter because it sucked from the
It
get-go.
was unreadable
So,
garbage.
and you know what? Like Robert Kirkman actually went like on live fucking television, like on fucking CNN or something, and talked about it.
Like, tried to promote it?
I've never seen a comic book actually make it to such a like
Hey,
the
man, when
fucking
Captain America
View.
was shot-
I mean,
Gotta count, man.
I had that spooled for me on fucking CNN.
But
Yeah,
the
they-
fact that Image United made it on is pretty huge.
it is, but that
Savage
it
Dragon.
bombed.
I get Captain America's
Well,
death,
now
but
this is after Robert Kirkman is the
well, and that's kind of bringing us to our
Walking
next.
Dead.
That's kind of coming into where Image is coming up because they hired a dude out of apparently Owensboro, Kentucky.
Yeah,
No,
which
Richmond, Kentucky.
Richmond, Kentucky.
Yeah, one thing I like to bring about with Robert Kirkman is my first year when we went to the Wizard World Comic Convention. We met, or was it the second year? Eric, were you with us when we met?
I
Robert
was
Kirkman?
not, so it was your first.
Okay, it was my first. We met Robert Kirkman, and my friends all told me that I needed to read Invincible. So I was like, "Hey, what's going
Oh,
on?"
Invincible's amazing.
Yeah, we talked. No one gave a shit about Walking Dead yet. So we told him we were from Adam, actually here, told him we were from Paducah. First thing he says is, "You know what? Fuck y'all." And we went, "Whoa." He goes, "I'm sorry, but fuck Paducah, because every time I go to fucking Paducah, my wife makes me go to the fucking quilt museum."
Yep.
So we got cussed by Robert Kirkman before he was famous, and I like to brag about that.
Totally fair.
But you know what's cool is
wrong.
that nobody was around him, and at that same point, I remember looking behind him, and fucking Brian Michael Bendis had just his entourage.
Oh, yeah, that's-
Kirkman was a nobody.
Absolutely.
Good night, man.
And-
Zach, you were the first person that ever said the words, "You have to read Walking Dead" to me.
Yeah.
Come on, tell me, how'd you
goes
discover
into
that?
it. I mean, that's where Image is coming back up. They hire Robert Kirkman.
Yeah.
He writes a little bitty book called The Walking Dead.
Was it
Walking
Walking Dead or
Dead.
Invincible first?
Walking Dead was first.
Really?
I don't know. Zach
No.
probably does.
Is it
Invincible
not?
came out
No shit.
exactly
First.
1 year later.
Oh, was it 1 year later?
Yeah, or no, wait, I'm sorry, one year
before.
earlier.
Okay.
It was
No shit.
Invincible
Walking Dead
first
was
and better.
October of 2003, and Invincible
Yeah.
was I want to say 2002.
Yeah,
Which
you're
is
right. It is.
Impressive because that was Kirkman coming off Battle Pope, which is unreadable garbage.
Zach, which one do you prefer? Because you were the first one
Oh
that I
man, it's
that,
so
that ever
hard
mentioned it
because
to
they're
me.
so different. There are times like I prefer Walking Dead, but then I read Invincible and I'm like, damn, this is probably one of the greatest comics of all time.
Big,
They're just
big
so
changes
they're
in
just
Walking
so
Dead
different.
this last month. I mean, we sold out of 191 real quick. I would, if I was you, spec listeners, get 192.
But I
It's
think
gonna be
Walking
hot.
Dead was still the upswing because nobody had.
Absolutely.
I mean,
No,
Invincible
it
was
was
still
still
tiny, and then
Yeah,
Walking
well,
Dead comes in, and everybody wants to
absolutely.
read everything
I
Kirkman's
think,
ever written.
Kirkman had a hit with Walking Dead, and that's when they brought him in.
Yeah.
And
And
now
then,
this predates the TV show.
of
Yeah.
course.
Yes.
oh, he's
And-
about a lot.
And I used to pay attention to all the. I still do every once
Zach
in a while,
knows
but the
all this stuff.
sales, like when the first issue came out, I think because they probably didn't expect it to be such a hit. He
Well, it wasn't at first.
and he tossed the idea to Eric Larson that it would be about like space creatures and shit because he was like, I'll just tell him it's about zombies. He's not gonna let me pass, and that's the
Didn't
the
Eric
joke
Larson
behind
say he wouldn't do it if it was just a zombie
if it's just a
book?
zombie, and that's
Yeah.
the joke behind the variant of issue 50 of why it's an aliens cover. So I mean, issue 1 going from 7,000, and when you look at these sales, I mean, even Marvel, there's a decrease, but there was never a decrease, which is I always thought was so odd with Walking Dead because it's a book about zombies. It shouldn't do good, but it's just a book about
black and white.
people. It's a character development.
It's an anomaly. And
It really is,
it-
and for it to be on 192 and still one of the top 15 highest-selling comics of all, I mean, each month.
it
That's
just had a big boost
it's
too.
insane.
Like, there's renewed interest in Walking Dead.
It's good because it felt like it was waning.
yeah,
It was
It
down for a
almost,
minute.
it almost died.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
with Walking Dead, I mean, Image seemed to totally change their whole MO where they're like, all right, we're not going to focus on superheroes. We're not going to focus on, these little things.
Cliche.
Cliche
Yeah.
things. And then they start this fucking
Well,
artistic movement.
What
that is
happened
just
was
amazing.
Instead of the founders creating new books, they found new talent.
New talent.
Badass talent.
New
Oh,
talent started creating.
And then also those guys own those books.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean,
Those
it-
guys can go, hey man, when I sign this over to anyone in Hollywood, I own this.
Hey, a really good example of that is in the collected editions of Spawn, 9 and 10 aren't in there because Neil Gaiman wrote them.
Yeah,
and Dave Simmons is
Yeah,
on
which-
9, I believe.
The number 10.
and Alan
Dave
Moore
Yeah,
is in there too.
yeah.
And so there was a point where Neil Gaiman actually sold Angela from Spawn 9 to Marvel.
Almost to be spiteful to Todd McFarlane for being a
and
douchebag.
So now Angela is Thor's sister.
Yep.
From heaven.
And it's crazy as fuck that's an Image character that was
Yeah.
sold to Marvel.
That is weird.
It's
Yeah.
pretty wild.
I believe the Ninja Turtles had a little stint at Image too.
Yeah, they did.
Urban Legends.
Yep, sure did.
Yeah, I forgot about that
Yeah, I
actually.
think. Now it's at IDW.
Yeah.
but yeah.
Well, now it's
all those came from Image.
It's,
I mean, I don't mean honestly came from Image, but Image led the way for that, man. And I mean, Dark Horse.
I would kind of say that TMNT with Mirage Studios
Dude.
led the charge. For
I'm
all
going to
of
say
it.
that too, because Walking Dead is kind of like a modern TMNT. I know, not the same story wise, but it's a black and white comic that took over the fucking mainstream. Just fucking
Out of nowhere,
just out of nowhere, an independent comic that no one had any hopes for doing anything.
It's-
I mean, and the Turtles are strong today, man.
God, when
I
you're
mean,
talking about like the biggest independent impact of, I mean, it's
the longest lasting legacy, of course. I mean, that's old. I don't think Walking Dead's going anywhere. I'll be
No,
honest
It's
with you.
still in the top 10
Yeah.
sales wise.
Kirkman even
It's
said
insane.
himself that once that show ends, it will be the fake ending because his comic series
He's gonna keep it
will
going.
go way
Yeah,
past
that's
it.
awesome.
And I think he made a mistake.
Yeah.
Ending Invincible to keep going with shit like
I agree.
Oblivion
I do.
Song.
I do.
Oblivion
Yeah.
Song.
The problem
I
is
think-
Invincible just stopped selling well. And I mean, he can talk all day
yeah.
about his
he
his
can
artistic
afford not
integrity.
to worry about it though.
True, but I mean, I think in the end, as much as I like Kirkman as a creator, he's really got his eyes on the dollar signs.
Well,
Well,
Walking
I
Dead would
actually-
have funded Invincible.
I actually feel like
Doesn't
that's
care.
what that Oblivion song. You know what? Outkast had a brief show, but I feel like, and I could be wrong, and I'm sorry, Robert, but I feel like every book he's put out since Walking Dead, he's trying to get another TV show.
Yep.
That's what I'm saying.
And
Yeah.
that's the thing about his shit that I don't like.
And that is some of the issue with, like we were saying, creators bringing shit to Image to have it published because they want a TV show.
Kieran Gillen, who is one of the people in charge of Wicked and the Divine, which is something I'm going to bring up when we start jerking off about Image books, has said that's a
haven't
big
yet?
problem that a lot of people have now is that there's a lot of books that people put to the side that would be really good comics because they'd rather do something that will sell a TV series or a movie.
Yep.
And that's where you get stuff
Well,
like,
you know, we've just gone through an unprecedented era of indie books being turned into TV shows and movies before the first issue's even published.
Yeah, like Crowded, I remember had a big boost, and it got canceled. So it had a big speculation boost where people were buying that first issue, and they said, "Oh, never mind, we're not making that movie," and now no one gives a shit about it.
Yep. No one,
Didn't
no
God
one
Country just go through that? Not
Well-
being canceled, but didn't it just have a big pop? God
Yeah,
Country?
but it's still getting made,
It's
which
still getting made.
which I'm gonna go and throw in here now. God Country's fucking amazing, by the way,
That's
and it
Donny
deserves
Cates.
to be adapted. But
Donny Cates.
yeah, Donny Cates is actually this is the one that put Donny Cates on the map.
But speaking about jerking off about some of our the great Image books, let's jerk off about some fucking Image.
let's
books.
I'm
that-
ready to jerk off,
Let's
baby.
get the circle jerk going here.
My
Zach,
pants are off.
Zach,
You want to talk about an
Take us
Image
away,
book that
bro.
you fucking love?
Oh man, oh my gosh, I love Walking Dead. Do we have to just name one?
No, you can. No.
Name
you're one of
I'd
the first
say-
people that ever said.
Well, we're gonna wax poetic on our own.
Oh yeah,
I've got at least 6 I'm bringing.
I
baby.
would say Walking Dead by Robert Kirkman. You got Invincible, Southern Bastards.
oh man,
That's amazing. You
That's,
know,
that's by the Jasons.
yes, and Jason Aaron's such a friggin' great writer. And the thing I love about that, without giving anything away, that the first trade when you read it, you're like, this is amazing. And then the person you hate, that's the second volume, and then you're like, God, I love this fucking character. How does he do that? He's that good.
Yeah,
he does do it.
And it's another title that I feel like everybody knows, and it's so repetitive because I bet it's probably in everybody's top 5 Saga.
Oh man.
If you're not reading, the thing that's cool about Saga is even if you don't read comic books, which I get that, you need to be reading Saga.
I agree.
Fiona Staples.
Fiona Staples, fucking great.
Brian K. Vaughan.
Yeah,
BKV, though.
can't be beat.
He can write
Shit.
anything and turn it to gold.
What do you want to jack off about?
I've got 2 tiers of things I want to jack off about. It's kind of weird.
2 whole tiers.
I know, right?
I think we're
One
starting
for
a
each
segment
eye.
here. Like, what do you want to jack off about?
I'm going to jack off about jacking off.
If you
What do you
haven't-
want to crank your hog to?
If you haven't, you should start jerking off.
If you haven't, you should take your pants off right now.
Dance around a little.
Rubbing your butthole. But the good thing about Image to me is that it provides unique things, and
Absolutely.
one thing is
It can be niche.
yeah, like one thing popping off here at the beginning is the fact that things that would normally get printed do. Like a book I really love is Kill 6 Billion Demons, which I've jerked off about. It's originally a web comic. Gets in there. And also readapting things that used to be garbage, like Rob Liefeld's Glory and Prophet, which I'll let Adam handle Prophet. But Glory was originally a very obvious Wonder Woman knockoff that became a half-demon horror book, superhero book, which is amazing. But those aside, which if y'all want to come in and talk to me about that in store, I'll talk about them all day. But what I'm going to take my time here to talk to y'all about is Pretty Deadly, which is about the daughter of death, drawn by Emma Rios, written by Kelly Sue DeConnick. Fucking amazing. Monstrous.
Creator of Captain Marvel as
Yeah, as
we know her.
Carol Danvers as Captain Marvel. That's what you got there, her and Jamie McKelvey.
just for those in the movie world who might want to check out her other work.
Yeah. From Marjorie Liu and Sana Takeda, you got Monstrous, which is a book about a woman possessed by a demon that goes to whoop things off. It's very anime-ish. One of these days I'm going to get Adam and Eric to read it, and they're going to love it. But number one, which may tie with Sandman as my all-time favorite book, is Saga, which starts off in the most generic terms as like almost Romeo and Juliet style. These two people can't be together because they're from feuding things when they're from different planets that are at war. But ends up sprawling out. It's Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples. And man, I don't want to spoil anything, but I've said like I've cried at two books, and one of the most recent actually the most as of the time I was recording this issue of this, broke me down. It hurt me. I'm about to read it again, so I'm going to do it again.
Damn.
I'm not too tough to admit it when I tear up a little bit, but if you don't get emotionally involved in Saga, we're not really going to agree on comics, and that's just it.
Might have the single best first page
I was just
ever
about to
in
say that.
anything.
I have
Where
sold the book just by opening the front cover.
It comes in with what's her name again? Alana. It comes in with Alana. It's a close up on the side of her face, and if I'm not mistaken, the quote is, "I'm shitting. I'm
No,
literally shitting
I
myself."
feel like I need to
Yeah.
take it.
No,
feels
it's
like
am I shitting?
Yeah.
She's giving birth, right?
Yeah, she's giving birth.
Yeah, which
First page.
Yeah, and actually, I'm not going to spoil anything because I want everyone to read Saga. If you haven't,
It's really good.
It's fucking just unbeatable. But there's so many times where you'll flip a page and the first thing you see will throw you off your whole game. And that first page, like Munch said, it'll fuck your whole day up.
It's hilarious.
It's great, and it proves why those like Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples are completely unbeatable when it comes
They're
to
on
comics.
top of their game.
I mean, Adam
Yeah.
says he sold the book on that first page. I know I've sold it twice on that first page.
Yeah,
I
I mean,
sold it for the cover with the breastfeeding.
yeah, I'm gonna tell y'all right
Offends
now.
people.
Yeah, that's one of the funnest things. Is there was a huge shit fit because one of the covers of the issues had a cover of the whole book is broken into four different things. That it's all about one. It starts with the main, what arguably the main character is a baby, toddler, child, and then the last part that hasn't come out yet is her as a teenager / adult. But one of the early covers pictured her breastfeeding, and people threw a hissy fit about it. So whenever the big fancy deluxe edition came out, Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples made that the cover of the $50 fancy thing, which we have sitting on our back shelf right now because we ain't afraid of shit.
We
Y'all
actually
fight
keep
about us.
at least 5 copies of Trade One at all times.
I've actually kept track of how many. I usually don't keep track of a lot of things, but I know I've sold at least 14 versions of the first trade.
And it's on 2 walls here. We have it in the new area, so people see it every week, and we have it behind the register.
And we have to keep reordering it because it's that good.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I
It's
sold
a good
2 of them
problem.
today.
Yeah.
Whenever somebody comes in going, I need to read something that ain't superhero, I'm like, okay, 7 to Eternity. If you're not into that kind of shit, Saga.
Yeah, agreed.
There was also an issue of it that was banned. in the United States.
Yeah, it's because it had homosexual blowjob in it, and
Yeah.
people are cowards about those things.
Yeah, no.
It's not even that big a deal. It's one
That's
panel.
bullshit.
Look.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. If y'all are easily offended by nudity, there's boners and titties and
Yeah,
wide open
Saga's
vaginas.
definitely not for
Yeah,
children.
definitely not something
not
you should
for children.
leave laying around on the coffee table.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
that's the only thing I could. The only reason you shouldn't read it is if you're easily offended by things. But otherwise, I mean, pick it up, read it. It's amazing.
Adam,
yeah.
what do you got?
What do I have? Well, I mean, there's numerous things, and AJ kind of talked about how new creators have come in and picked up some of the old creations and kind of turned them into something better than they were. And I know it sounds like I'm just bashing Rob Liefeld, which I'm sorry.
Bash away.
His
I'm
extreme comics.
I'm sorry, Rob. Your shit blows, man.
Hashtag sorry, Rob.
Not a foot in that book.
No, but yeah, Brandon Graham redid Well, actually, he didn't redo it. It actually Rob's run into at like issue 20, and then Brandon Graham starts at issue 21. But it just happens to be like 16 years later when 21 comes out. But it's probably it's not my favorite book by any means, but it's one I always come back to if you're into sci-fi. I thought it was hi-fi. Like the motherfucker is out there. Like he creates economies, and it reminds me of Star Wars and how deep the backgrounds are.
It's very rich.
It's a very rich, well thought out world, or I should say universe, that the story takes place in, and it follows the Prophet or whatever, which is like a clone army.
John Prophet.
I like
Yeah.
the one with a monkey tail.
Yeah, there's all kind of different prophets that were created for different environments all across the universe, and it's just I don't know. I really like it. He went. Brandon Graham dug so far deep into it to create this lore and these rich environments and creatures. Like there's one planet that they're on. I believe it's on Earth after it's been conquered by aliens. But these 3 giant beasts that they have cities built on the back of. The one shits into the second one's mouth. That the second one shits into the third one's mouth, and what comes out at the end is what they use for both currency and energy. I mean, it's
Human Centipede if they actually use the excrement for something.
it's crazy shit. Yeah.
Oh,
I mean,
Just
just
disturbing.
that really. I just
You ever seen Human Centipede? It is
yeah.
disturbing.
that
Which
book for
one?
me is completely awesome.
Yeah, it like one thing. Brandon Graham and James Stokely to me, and Stokely does some of the art on some of that too.
There's some wild ass art in it.
It blows my mind the way their imagination works because they come up with these weird worlds and creatures.
And they totally flesh it out.
Yeah, that like most people. I'm gonna tell you right now. If you told me right now, if you gave me a whole year to come up with something that creative, I wouldn't do a quarter of what they do.
Alex?
I put down Meltdown. I really liked that. It's about a character named the Flare. Well, I guess his name's Caliente, but they call him the Flare. And he has basically Human Torch's powers, and they're killing him. So he has 7 days to rectify all the mistakes that he's made in his life.
That's awesome.
It's really good. It's really good. It's by David Schwartz and Sean Wang. I did have to write that down because I didn't remember their names. It's only 2 issues. Really good. And it's about, it's kind of somber. It's really cool though. I like that it just ends.
One of the problems is you might not come out and blah blah blah. There's no deadlines or whatever. But at the same time, there's absolutely nothing they can't do.
Todd McFarlane calls Image the best deal in entertainment.
I think that's fair.
You bring it to him, we publish it, you own it.
I mean, my God, it started with 7. Now there's 6 of them, but they each run their own publishing branch of the company.
Skybound for Robert Kirkman.
Yeah.
McFarlane Studios.
I think that's right.
Top Cow.
Top Cow, one of them.
No,
Top Cow wasn't
actually
originally.
left.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
Top Cow
another
was-
interesting thing that AJ talked about earlier, Jim Lee ended up selling his part to DC Wildstorm Studios, and he became
the president.
Yeah.
He is the chief creative officer, right?
He's the president of DC.
He's some big wig at DC.
Yeah.
I think chief creative officer.
Yeah, he's the highest person in DC
I
right
think-
now if you don't count
no,
the WB.
Jeff Johns
executives.
is chief creative. Jim Lee is fucking president.
Yeah, Jim Lee used to be chief creative.
Damn, over
but now
DC.
Jeff Johns
I didn't know
Co-president.
that.
He's co-president.
Okay.
Dan Didio and him
Damn.
share it, don't they?
Yeah, Dan Didio stepped down.
He's fucking president of the company.
well, I'm
Yeah, Didio
behind.
used to be.
But I think it's awesome that you can look at all these guys that founded Image, and
But
they're
you know
all
what's really
at
fun
the
to
top
do?
of their game 20 years or so later.
Yeah. It's awesome to like, and I don't know if you guys are ever done this, but I get on YouTube sometimes, and you can watch YouTube videos of Jim Lee drawing.
Yeah, it's awesome. Todd McFarlane does live cast.
Yeah, I mean, they'll do a live video.
What I appreciate is he always does Venom.
Well, fuck.
Always.
That's the best thing he's ever done. I don't care what anybody says.
Yeah.
It's true.
He knows it.
There is a contrast that Spawn 300's coming out, and Todd's big, huge breakthrough is Amazing Spider-Man 300, where he creates Venom.
Right.
And that's fucking cool that they're tied together now.
It has the same cover, so
That's right. That he hasn't ever done before.
He's never
has
done
done
Hardy har har.
so many Spawn covers are just riffs on Spider-Man
it's
covers.
just
I
the
like
exact
that,
cover,
though.
just with Spawn.
Yeah.
Well, you guys want to talk about stuff that's got TV shows now. Going back to
Grizzly
something
stuff.
that's getting a TV show
Oh,
soon.
okay.
Invincible.
Oh, yeah, Mark Hamill got
Yeah.
cast.
Amazon's doing
Yeah,
that, ain't
it's
they?
going to be fucking awesome.
Or awful.
It's a cartoon, right?
It is a cartoon, and I think if they got Otley to come in
Oh.
and help him out with it, I mean, shit.
I think, my opinion, cartoon.
Can I have my
hurts it.
opinion?
Yeah, I'm just saying. I think it would have more chance for success if it was live action.
Is it
I think
going to be an
you're-
adult
I think that
cartoon?
would cause too much of a...
Possibly.
Has to be.
Yeah, it has to be.
I hope so.
Honestly think
It's
if
gotta
it
be
was live
gory as
action, it'd
fuck.
have to have too much of a budget and they would never succeed.
I mean, man, the gore in it.
That's what happened to Swamp Thing.
Right, but continue.
So, Invincible about Mark Grayson, everyday kid, figures out that he's technically half alien and trying to figure out when he's going to get his powers, when everything's going to happen. Finally does and becomes a superhero, Invincible. And he's got a hot girlfriend, redhead, superhero with him, Adam Eve. Adam Eve.
Oh, Adam.
Munch is popping a boner.
I am.
He is. I can see it from here.
I've been
got-
waiting for the
Munch
first
has a
boner of this
thing for
episode.
Then you got
redheads.
Rex
Yes, he does.
Explode, Monster Girl. Yeah, I think it's an amazing book.
It
Alan the Alien, great fucking character. Great character.
Yeah.
We have his first appearance.
Yeah, Duplicate and Multipole
Yep.
are two of the best names for any superheroes ever, by the way.
Multipole, Rexplode, Immortal Man,
I like Omni Man. That's
or
a
Mr.
cool.
Immortal.
Yeah.
The
Yeah,
Immortal.
Mr. Immortal. Who is it?
The Immortal.
The
He is
Immortal.
Wait, was
Who
it
is
Con-
Abe Lincoln?
He was Abe
Adam, was it
Lincoln,
Conquest or Conqueror? What was that guy's name?
Conquest.
Oh my
Conquest.
gosh.
Yeah.
No. Battle Line.
Battle
wait,
Beast.
Battle
That's
Beast.
my favorite character
Battle
from that
Beast
series.
is
Yeah.
a beast.
Yeah. Kirkman's so good at naming
Battle
characters.
Beast is the shit.
Okay, is it just
Yeah.
me, or is Thrag based on Freddie Mercury?
Oh, without
He
a
looks
doubt.
like it, yeah.
Okay.
Every
Absolutely.
Viltrumite
Damn, I
has
didn't
a
think about
mustache,
that.
and I love that.
Invincible in later issues tackles some pretty crazy shit.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
No, no.
You can
It's a
relate
good
to
book.
it too because his dad hates him.
Oh man, that's the biggest
My
thing.
dad's
Is
just
that-
disappointed in me.
Yeah.
It's the biggest thing is
He's
that his
not a
dad doesn't,
supervillain.
but he needs to because his dad was sent there to destroy the Earth,
Yeah.
Or to
Essentially.
subjugate it. Subjugate
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
and he didn't. And the rest of the book deals with a lot of that and a lot of the growing pains for a young hero trying to come up and figure out what he's doing and how to have a life and be a super. And it's fucking amazing.
I love it.
It's
Yeah.
amazing. It's amazing. It's like 144 issues. It's amazing for 142.
When
One of the
Omni
best
Man
runs
tells
ever.
Mark the story of how it all came to be,
Yeah.
and then they redid the exact same like the exact same art, everything, but it was just the truth.
Yeah.
It's
Oh, yeah.
one of the
Awesome.
greatest runs in,
It's
in
fucking.
history.
I'm serious. Like, whenever I talk about this book, I tell people that there was nothing else that I kept up with like I kept up with Invincible.
Even
I-
X-Men.
I didn't have the single issues because I didn't get into it until it was already in like trade 9. But I bought every trade that I could get my hands on, got caught up as fast as I could, and paid attention and pre-ordered every trade when they were coming and read them, usually the day they came in. I kept up with Invincible.
That's awesome.
And it's great for 142 issues.
Out of 144.
Out of 144
It's a pretty good run.
Which are the bad ones, by
the
the way?
last two.
That sucks because I have the last two trades to read still. You're really disappointing me here.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert, it sucks right at the end because
Well.
you can tell that Kirkman's like, it's done.
Just
Well,
like
shit
Walking
fire.
Dead,
All right.
just like Game of Thrones,
AJ,
everything
Game of
sucks
Thrones,
that ends.
The Walking Dead hasn't ended yet.
Oh shit, sorry.
Personally, if you haven't, you should.
If you haven't.
I got a question just real quick. Is Ryan Otley a co-creator?
No.
Is he?
He didn't even
No.
come in until like issue 8.
Yeah, it's another guy.
No
Kirkman came up with most everything, even the
But he
general
didn't draw
design.
the art.
He came up with the design of Invincible. Like you can see his early sketches.
What's cool is
but
that
Walker's the one that
His
fleshed it out.
costume is the Image Comics logo.
It is.
Yeah.
It's the eye from Image
Yeah,
Comic
it's
Books.
cool, man.
What's even better than that is like something happens to Mark and he has to be, I think, off planet for a long time.
And they got the
he
other
just
guy.
gets his buddy Bulletproof to fill in for
I
him.
love
so
that.
you have a black Invincible for a while.
You know what? That is a callback to the Bronze Age
Absolutely.
of
Yeah.
Marvel.
I mean, it was very like the
They
whole
changed his costume.
that whole storyline is very John Stewart.
Yeah, and he goes through a couple of costume changes.
Yeah, it's so
Yeah.
Bronze Age. I mean,
Yeah.
that is a love letter to the Bronze Age.
It might. I think it is arguably the best modern superhero book to come out.
Absolutely.
So if
Yeah.
you haven't, you should read
Close to my
Invincible.
heart.
Well, fuck, man. Is there any damn thing else to say
Do you
except for
think
Image
can
Comics is
continue?
awesome?
Can you continue? Can they continue?
I
their
believe
trajectory?
that Image can continue, but not the way they're doing it now.
But listen, man,
He's really
tell
good.
them where they can find us, brother. We're at the end of this motherfucker. I'm tired of talking to you guys.
If you want to catch up with Infinite Collectibles, you can find us on Facebook and Instagram at Infinite Paducah, or Twitter or YouTube at Infinite Collectibles. However, if you want to keep up with our dumbass words here at Blitzkrieg Pop, which you're doing, and I don't know why sometimes, you can find us at Apple Podcasts. You can find us at YouTube. You can find us at pretty much anywhere podcasts are, because we spread our net far and wide because we're beautiful and delightful people.
Hell yeah. We've had fun talking about the legacy of Image Comics, and I'm excited about the future.
Here's the 27 more years.
Damn right, man. We'll see you guys down the road.